In 1932, Australia sent machine guns, soldiers, and a military commander to fight Emus, and the Emus won. This is the true story of the Emu War, arguably the strangest military campaign of the 20th century. After World War I, Australia gave returning soldiers land in Western Australia to farm wheat, the soldier settlement scheme. The land was tough, the soil was poor, and promised government support kept not arriving. Then the Great Depression hit. Wheat prices collapsed. These farmers were already barely hanging on, and that's when 20,000 emus decided to show up. Emus migrate inland after breeding season, chasing green pasture and water. And in 1932, that pasture was the farmers' wheat fields. Huge flocks trampled fences, ate the crops, and left gaps in the fence lines that let in rabbits too. A second invasion riding the first. Desperate, the farmers, many of them WWI veterans themselves, asked for the one thing they knew: military hardware. They petitioned the Australian Minister of Defence, Sir George Pearce, for machine guns to deal with the birds. Remarkably, the Australian government said yes. Pearce agreed to send soldiers, partly to help the farmers, and partly because a newsreel of soldiers shooting pests made good publicity. In November 1932, the army deployed to the Campion district. Major G.P.W. Meredith of the Royal Australian Artillery with 2 Lewis machine guns and 10,000 rounds of ammunition. 2 soldiers, 2 machine guns, 10,000 bullets against birds. On November 2nd, 1932, the operation began. Around 50 emus were spotted near Campion. Local farmers tried to herd the emus into range of the guns, like driving cattle. The emus did not cooperate. They split into small, scattered groups the moment they sensed danger. The gunners opened fire anyway, and the Lewis gun jammed after only a handful of birds went down. The rest of the flock simply ran off. At full speed, an emu can hit 50 kilometers an hour. 2 days later, on November 4th, Meredith tried an ambush. Soldiers hiding near a dam where over 1,000 emus were expected to drink. The emus arrived. The gun opened fire. About a dozen birds went down in the first burst. Then the gun jammed again, and the rest of the flock scattered in every direction before a second burst could be fired. Major Meredith later admitted the emus displayed near military discipline, moving in small units with what looked like a lookout posted on watch. He reportedly compared their tactics to Zulu warriors and said no army in the world could have withstood these bulletproof birds. Bulletproof wasn't quite literal, but emus are large, tough, fast-healing birds that can absorb hits and keep running. One soldier reportedly mounted a Lewis gun on a truck for a mobile chase. The ride was so rough the gunner couldn't hit a single bird. By day 6, the army had fired hundreds of rounds for a startlingly small number of confirmed kills. Word reached the Australian Parliament, and reporters had a field day with it. Newspapers mocked the operation openly. One opposition MP joked that the emus had won every round so far. Ornithologist Dominic Cervanty is credited with the name that stuck forever after: the Emu War. Embarrassed by the coverage, the government pulled the military out on November 8th, just 6 days after it began. The wheat farmers were furious. The emus were still out there and the crops were still getting destroyed. So the government reconsidered. On November 12th, Major Meredith and his men were sent back out for round 2. This time, the results were better. The soldiers reportedly killed close to 100 emus in the first weeks back. By the operation's end in early December, Meredith's own report claimed 986 emus killed, using nearly 10,000 rounds of ammunition. Do the math, that's about 10 bullets fired for every single bird against an enemy with no guns at all. Even Meredith's own commanding officers were skeptical. The true number wasn't wildly inflated. Whatever the real count, it barely dented a population of 20,000. The rest of the emus simply walked off into the wheat belt. Farmers asked for the army again in 1934 and again in 1943. Both times, the government said no. Instead, Australia switched tactics entirely, a bounty system paying farmers directly for each emu they culled themselves. In just 6 months, under the bounty scheme, over 57,000 emus were claimed, vastly more than the army had managed in weeks. Later, a very different solution actually worked long-term. Massive exclusion fencing to simply keep emus out of farmland. No machine guns, no major, just a really, really long fence. Today, the Emu War is remembered, half jokingly, half seriously, as a case where the birds strategically outmaneuvered the Australian military. It's even referenced in Australian pop culture and politics as shorthand for a plan that backfires spectacularly. No treaty was signed, no surrender was declared. The emus simply kept being emus, and Australia quietly changed its approach. In the end, the most powerful military hardware of the day lost a battle of attrition to a flightless bird with better tactics. The Emu War, humans brought machine guns. The emus brought chaos. Chaos won.